ラジオ日経で放送している番組 ESG A to Z からのスピンオフシリーズ、私のウェルビーイング。今回はカナダの森林生態学者でブリティッシュコロンビア大学森林学部教授のスザンヌ・シマードさんに森林保護の観点からのウェルビーイング、そして木質バイオマス燃料、発電の問題点について伺いました。
So yes, I'll talk about my well-being. I'm from Canada. I grew up in forests, and my well-being is very much attached to being in my forests. And I think that's true of a lot of Canadians, especially the first people of Canada. And in fact, there is a saying that says, heal the land, heal the people. And so I think that reflects our great connection to the land and my own as well. So, in the last 30 years, we've seen a great deal of changes on our landscape in Canada. And I want to emphasize that those changes that we're seeing are related to the global cycles. So what's happening in forests all around the world and in climates all around the world are coming to bear on what's going on in our forests. And so these places are all connected together. So one of the things that we've been witnessing is a great deal of insect infestations and wildfire in our forests, and a lot of extensive logging in our forests, and this has made people actually have a lot of grief in Canada because they see their forests in decline, and so the well-being, when you asked about well-being, I would say that our well-being is really being challenged right now. And a lot of this we brought on ourselves by not being good stewards of the land. We don't treat the land as sustainably often, so not tending the land well and taking too much from the land. So harvesting the forest at too high of a rate, and then not valuing the forest for its life essential processes. Okay, so how does this link in with other countries like Japan? Well, what's happening in our forests is probably also happening in your forests, even though you have a different climate. The stresses that we're seeing, I know, are being, it's affecting forests all over the world. So even though here I haven't seen, the forests look healthy from driving by, but when I go inside of them, I can see that they also there's issues. So, the forests are quite simplified, for example. Our forests in Canada are as well. It's through management practices. And that means that they're less resilient and less able to resist these stresses. So the reason that I came to Japan is because, Japan and many other countries all around the world are looking to change their energy sources from fossil fuels or nuclear power, in the case of Japan, to renewable energy. And so renewable energy includes things like solar power, wind power, but also biofuels. And the use of biofuels, the increasing use of biofuels or pellets in wood pellets to generate electricity in Japan is growing exponentially as Japanese government is trying to replace nuclear power and fossil fuel power with these renewables. A lot of these pellets or this biofuel is actually being sourced from Canada or British Columbia, a large part of it. Other sources are places like Vietnam, but this is creating a lot of pressure on our forests in Canada. So forests are being logged, and part of the residue is being shipped across the Pacific Ocean to Japan as pellets to be used to generate electricity. And in the process, not only is waste sometimes used, but also whole forests are being chipped and shipped overseas to Japan. This is energetically not a good idea because number one, it's actually having a really negative impact on our forests, and it also is a very poor. It's not a climate solution. It's actually a climate problem. It's actually emitting more carbon dioxide through this process than would be through other sources of energy. And so I'm coming here to talk to you, to the people of Japan, to say there's got to be a better way because that is more efficient, more efficient sources of energy than biofuels, which are very, very low efficiency. So only about 20 to 40% of energy is actually extracted from wood to create electricity, and that's a very, very low amount compared to other sources. So, and the destructive effect on the environment is really, really high. And so when we log forests for these very low value uses, we actually emit a lot of carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere. And so it's actually very degrading to the environment. A lot of these forests that are being logged are actually primary forests. Most of the logging in Canada is in primary forests, which means they've not been logged before. And so they have a lot of high biodiversity and carbon stocks in them. And so the logging of them for fuels is actually destroying those long legacies that took thousands of years to really get there in the first place. So this is actually, these practices actually degrade our forests. And so I'm coming here to appeal to the Japanese people to look at alternative sources of energy rather than biofuels. And it doesn't mean that biofuels don't have a place. They do if they're sourced locally. And then it starts to make a little bit more sense from an energy point of view. That means that in Japan, that if you're going to use wood to generate electricity or heat, it should be from your own forests. But even then, it probably doesn't add up to a good decision. So these things need to be thought through very carefully. But sourcing this wood from Canada it's not a climate solution.
ESG についてはラジオ日経第一で放送中の ESG A to Z でも学べますので、ぜひ皆さんご覧ください。